In the earlier lecture, we have studied the two types of vacuum pumps. The first one, that is positive displacement pumps, and the second one, that is momentum transfer pump. And last time we have just started with the third type, that is capture pumps. So one of the example of capture pump which we have studied last time, that was titanium sublimation pump. So we have studied that it is a Gator pump. Gator means to react with. Some chemical reaction takes place and the gas molecules are captured on the Gator surface. So that was the example of surface Gator. So the gators can be either surface gator or bulk gator. Accordingly, we have different types of gator pumps. So titanium sublimation pump, which we have studied, it was an example of surface gator. So today we shall continue the study of capture pump further. So before going to the next example of capture pump, let me tell you a few more important facts about the capture pump. The first one is that even though these capture pumps, they have limited pumping capacity, they can pump over a long period without much power being used. That means here, once the chemical process starts, for example in titanium sublimation pump, once the titanium is sublimated and deposited as a thin film on the surface of the walls, the gas molecule will further continue to react with the surface gator, that means titanium, forming the different chemical compounds. So the process continues. It's a chemical process, so no further utilization of energy. So that is what the beauty of this particular technique of capture pump. Then another important feature, how capture pumps, they are different than the earlier pumps that we have studied. So in the earlier different types of pumps so far we have studied, they work on the principle that the gas molecules which are present in the furnace, or what we call as the chamber, vacuum chamber, they are removed and they are literally exhausted through the exhaust valve into the atmosphere. So that is the other types of pumps. But capture pumps, they are different in the respect that they collect these gas molecules, they trap them or capture them, and they hold them inside the chamber itself in certain mechanism. So they do not try to exhaust out these gas molecules from the chamber. So in that respect, capture pumps are different than the other types of pumps. Okay, so today we shall study cryo pumps. So these cryo pump, they work on the principle of condensing the gas on extremely cold surfaces. So a cold surface is involved in cryo pump, which is this cold surface is maintained at a very low temperature and the gas molecules will condense on this cold surface. So that means they are captured by this cold surface. Now in order to make these surfaces very cold, the liquid nitrogen and liquid helium, they are used as a refrigerant. These cryopumps, they can reduce the partial pressure of gases except helium to of the order of 10 raised to minus 8 Pascal. So later on we shall discuss this importance of partial pressure and vapor pressure on the process of condensation. Now in the beginning, you know that when you start your cryo pump, and if you start it with higher pressures or very near to atmospheric pressure, then there is a chance that these cryo paper will easily saturate with too much frozen gas too quickly if started at high pressure. High pressure means the pressure which is much greater as compared to 1 Pascal. or so. So what is required is you should not start this cryo pumping at a pressure which is greater than 1 Pascal. So what is the solution? You should use a suitable roughing pump. Initially you bring down the pressure of the order of 1 Pascal and then you can start over your cryo pump. So that will solve this difficulty of getting saturated, this your cryo pump getting saturated. Getting saturated means what? So there are so many gas molecules, they will be condensing on the surface inside your cryo pump, and the whole surface will be covered with the help of those condensed gas species, and there will be no further space available on these surfaces inside your cryo pump where these gas molecules can be condensed, thereby captured, and therefore you can say that they will be saturated. So that is what the saturation process. Okay, so in these pumps, gaseous molecules are captured by two methods, either by you can say condensation of certain gas species, or by adsorption on the surface, which is held at a very low temperature. Now these two processes, one in which these gas molecules are condensed on a cool surface, that process is called as cryocondensation, and the second process where these gas species are adsorbed on a very cool surface, this process is called as cryosorption. So you can say that cryo pumps, they will work either on the principle of cryocondensation or cryosorption, or there are some cryo pumps where both of these principles are utilized in order to pump all the different types of gas species. So that is what mentioned here. So the term cryopump, it is specifically used for the devices in which adsorption take place upon a simple surface, and another term, that is cryosorption pump, will be applied to device using a molecular sieve sorbent as the primary adsorbing medium. So in cryosorption pump, a special type of molecular sieve is used as a sorbent where the gas molecules will be adsorbed. So these types of cryopumps, they are widely used in both the high vacuum applications and ultra high vacuum applications. Now let us try to understand the basic physics involved in this process of either the cryo condensation or cryosorption. So first of all, you know that this condensation process is the dependence of the vapor pressure of a substance on its temperature. So basically, you know that the vapor pressure of any substance depends on its temperature. So here is one graph or a representation of the variation of vapor pressure with respect to temperature. You can see on y-axis we have vapor pressure, and on x-axis we have temperature in degree Kelvin. So the curves for different type of gas molecules, they are shown here. So this is for H2O, water vapor, then CO2, O2, N2, neon, H2, helium, and so on. So these different gas molecules, these curves are shown here, variation of the vapor pressure with respect to temperature. So what you can see here is that the vapor pressure decreases as you go towards the lower temperature. So when the gas molecules are cooled, you can see that rapidly the vapor pressure is decreasing. There are some exceptions like helium. You can see even you go to a very low temperature, even less than 4 degree Kelvin, so still the vapor pressure is much higher for helium gas molecule. So it is rather difficult to remove this helium by this cryo pump. So later on we shall discuss the difficulty. So on this particular curve, at any point you can see it gives the temperature and pressure at which the condensed phase of a substance and its saturated vapor are in equilibrium. So this any point here that gives the temperature, corresponding temperature and corresponding pressure at which condensed phase of a substance and its saturated vapor, they are in equilibrium. Now what is the basic condition required for condensation? So net condensation on a surface at a given temperature occurs when the partial pressure of a substance in the vapor phase is greater than its saturation vapor pressure at that particular temperature. So what is the important condition is the partial pressure of a substance in the vapor phase should be greater than its saturation vapor pressure at that particular temperature. So if that particular condition is satisfied, then you can say that there will be a sufficient condensation of the gas species. That means they will be captured and your pumping process will be effectively taking place. So let us see first of all some important aspects as far as the different gas species are involved here in the process of these cryopumps, in the operation of these cryopumps. Okay, so for the purpose of cryocondensation, you can say these gas species, they fall into three different groups. We shall see what are these three different groups. So the first group, that involve the water vapor and certain higher hydrocarbons. They have negligible vapor pressure at temperature at about 100 degree Kelvin. So if you cool them just about 100 degree Kelvin or slightly lower than that, they will easily get condensed. Then second group, you can say that is of certain molecules like nitrogen, oxygen, CO2. So they are such that pumping will complete at condensing temperature of about 10 to 20 degree Kelvin. So you need to cool them at a temperature about 10 to 20 degree Kelvin. Then third group, which is quite difficult to pump by this method of cryopumps. So that group involves certain gas molecules like the inert gas molecules, the argon, neon, then helium, then certain low atomic number molecules like helium, hydrogen. So all these, they have substantial vapor pressure even below 10 degree Kelvin, and for this cryocondensation is not feasible. So this is what you say limitation. So cryocondensation is not feasible, then what is the solution? These, however, can be pumped effectively by cryosorption on activated charcoal at temperatures about 10 to 15 degree Kelvin. So another molecular sieve you can say you can use or certain kind of material that you can use like activated charcoal which are kept at 10 to 15 degree Kelvin. Then the process of cryosorption can take place, and for these particular species, third group of gas molecules, they can be easily pumped with cryosorption. So you can think of the cryopump. If you design a cryopump which involves these two processes, cryocondensation and cryosorption, so definitely you will be able to remove all kind of gas species from your vacuum chamber. So let us go now to the actual types of cryopumps. So basically there are three types of cryopumps. So what are these three types? Based on the cooling principle, we have three types: bath cryostats, then continuous flow cryopumps, and third one is refrigerator cryopumps. The first two types, they are not much used nowadays. The third type, refrigerator cryopumps, they are effectively used nowadays. So therefore we shall just see the introduction of the first two types, and we shall see the actual example, the working of one of the refrigerator cryopump. Okay, so what is this bath cryostat? So it is most simple, what you can say, a cold trap filled with liquid nitrogen. So as I have said, so you can use certain surfaces, you can cool them with the help of either liquid nitrogen or helium, and sufficiently low temperature, when they are maintained, these surfaces are maintained at a very low temperature, definitely the gas molecules, they will condense on these surfaces. So the pumping surface is cooled by direct contact with this liquefied gas, either liquid nitrogen, which is having a temperature of 77 degree Kelvin. So easily you will find that the water vapor and CO2, they can be condensed. And for example, if you use a liquid helium, which is having a temperature of about 10 degree Kelvin, so you can pump other gas species except helium and neon. So that is possible by cryocondensation. So the second type, that is continuous flow cryopumps. So let us see how it works. In short, we shall discuss just its principle. The actual working we are not going to study here. Only refrigerator cryopumps we are going to study in details here. Okay, so the continuous flow cryopumps, the cold surface is designed to operate as a heat exchanger, and here liquid helium is used. For that, a separate pump is utilized, a auxiliary pump is utilized. So there is a separate reservoir for keeping this liquid helium, and it is pumped with the help of auxiliary pump into the evaporator in order to attain sufficiently low temperature at the cold surface. So the surface that is used inside this chamber to trap the gas molecule by process of cryocondensation, that surface is called as a cryo panel. This specific name is used, that is a cryo panel. Okay, so the liquid helium evaporates in the heat exchanger, and thus that can cool down this surface, which we call as a cryo panel, and the rest of waste gas that is actually used in the second heat exchanger to cool the baffle of a thermal radiation shield. So most of the time what is happening here, the external thermal radiation, they are entering here and they are affecting the cooling process. So the shield for this radiation shield is important here, and the baffle which is cooled with this waste helium gas, that can act as a thermal radiation shield. The cold helium exhaust gas ejected by the helium pump is supplied to a helium recovery unit. So the remaining helium gas, that can be collected and it will be recycled for further use. The temperature at the cryopump, that can be controlled by the flow of these liquid helium. So therefore it is called as a continuous flow type of cryopump. Okay, so let us now discuss the third type, that is refrigerator cryopump. So the refrigerator word is used, that means here it is just like a household refrigerator. So its operation is just like a household refrigerator. So the refrigerator part, that is used for cooling here. So this type of cryopump, it is used exclusively nowadays, and in this cryopump helium is used as a refrigerant. So you know that in the usual household refrigerator that we use, there also some refrigerants are used. Now the kind of process of this cryopump designed by two scientists, Gifford and McMahon. So this process is known as the Gifford-McMahon process for this refrigerator type of cryopump. So this process, Gifford-McMahon process, it consists of a compressor unit in order to compress the liquid helium, because in you know that in refrigerator also we have a compressor, which is this particular compress is linked via a flexible pressure lines to the cryopump. Now the actual cryopump, it itself consists of a pump casing and the two-stage cold head inside it. So the actual cold head, it is having two stages. So later on we shall see the details with the help of the diagram. So helium is used as a refrigerant, which circulates in a closed cycle with the help of the compressor. Okay, so this is what the actual two-stage cryopump. what we known as the Gifford-McMahon process, a two-stage cryogenic refrigerator. So you can see this refrigerator R, it is connected with this two-stage cold head. One stage you can say represented by F, and other stage that is represented by S. So the first cold head F is a massive copper block at a temperature 60 to 80 degree Kelvin. So F, this first stage, that is maintained at a temperature of the order of 60 to 80 degree Kelvin. So how it is maintained at this temperature? With the refrigerator R. Okay. So and that refrigerator all involve the household refrigerator cycle. You know that refrigerator works on the closed cycle. You can see that that is formed with the help of four processes. It starts with the compression, then condensation, then what we call the wall expansion wall, and fourth one, that is evaporator. So that is the cold cycle, refrigeration cycle. Okay, now the second cold head here you can see S. So that is kept at a temperature, a very low temperature of the order of 10 to 15 degree Kelvin. So there are some cylindrical thermal shield attached to this particular cold head S. Now the enclosure E, you can see this enclosure E inverted, just like a bowl shape. So that is also made up of copper. So why copper? Because you know that copper is a material which is good conductor of thermal energy. At the top you can say it is represented by A. So A, what is that? So that is the annular lowered structure. This annular lower structure, you can see it is tapered in a downward direction. Okay. So this allows the inlet of gas. So gas molecules enters from this. So this part is connected towards the chamber, vacuum chamber, which you want to evacuate. Okay, so it allows the gas molecules to enter but prevents an optical line of sight for thermal radiation. So it doesn't allow to enter the thermal radiation. So it is just acting like a thermal shield, so which will protect this cold head S from getting heated because of the thermal radiation. Okay, so the walls of the enclosure, this walls of the enclosure, they are nickel plated from the outside so as to have low emissivity and high reflectivity for ambient temperature. So this, there should be a high reflectivity to the ambient temperature, and this, therefore they are nickel plated. The lower and shield, this lower and the shield, uh, because of their physical and thermal attachment to the copper block F, you can see there they are attached with this copper block F. Okay, so this lower represented by A and the shield, they are this is a shield here. You can see the outer shield, you can see here. Okay, there is also a shield here. So this particular, they are attached with this copper block F. Now the lower acts as a pump for incident water vapor. So the incident water vapor that will be collected at the lower itself. The non-condensable species, they will enter through it, just like the other gases, nitrogen, hydrogen, helium, and water vapor that negotiates the lower without collision will be condensed on the shield inner walls. So that will be condensed initially here. Okay, now let us see how these cold heads works. So F, that will condense all those gas species which can easily condense below the temperature below 100 degree Kelvin. So as we have seen the three groups of gas species earlier. Now what is about the rest of the gas species? The activated charcoal granules are glued from inner side of enclosure E. You can see this enclosure E. So small crosses are shown here. So these actually represent the activated charcoal granules. So this material is very important here. So the this particular cold head S, that is maintained at a temperature 10 to 15 degree Kelvin, and therefore the gases like nitrogen, oxygen, argon, they will condense, and rest of the gases, they will be adsorbed on the activated charcoal. So hydrogen, helium, neon, which can only be pumped by the cryosorption. So for that purpose, this activated charcoal granules, they are used here. Okay, so these activated charcoal material, on the surface of this, they have very large surface area, so that a number of gas molecules of helium, neon, like this, so they will be adsorbed on the surface of this activated charcoal granules. So this is what known as cryosorption. So both the processes are taking place: condensation, cryocondensation, and cryosorption. So in this way, all the gas molecules can be removed from the vacuum chamber. The Gifford-McMahon refrigerator, the two-stage refrigerator, that this refrigerator will cool S and F respectively at the temperatures, as I have mentioned here, the temperature between 60 to 80 degree Kelvin, and this yes, 10 to 15 degree Kelvin. The high pressure helium gas is the working fluid of the refrigerator. So as I have mentioned, refrigerator, in this refrigerator, helium is used as a refrigerator, and the compressor is also used to compress the helium gas. All these external pumping mechanism for helium gas, that is not shown in this particular diagram. Okay, so during the operation of this particular cryo pump, as the gas species accumulate either by the cryo condensation, mostly by cryo condensation, and few of them they are captured by the mechanism of cryo adsorption. So what happens here later on, these surfaces will get saturated. That means, so when so many gas molecules, they are adsorbed or condensed on these surfaces, so there will be no further space available. So what you can say here is that as the pump gases accumulated uh, as a condensed solids on the first stage lower and inner second stage part, cryosorbing surfaces become saturated, and the point is reached where performance deteriorates. That means no further condensation or sorption is possible. Therefore, you can say that the system is saturated. And what is needed in this case is the pump requires regeneration. So what is the process of regeneration? Let us try to understand here. So regeneration of a cryo pump is a process of evaporating the trapped gases. Now the gas molecules are trapped. That means they are either condensed or adsorbed on certain materials like activated charcoal. So there is no further space available, therefore they should be removed. So this process of removing these condensed or adsorbed gas molecules on the surfaces, that is called as regeneration. So during the regeneration cycle, the cryopump is either warm to a room temperature or higher, allowing the trapped gases to change from solid state to a gaseous state, and thereby release from the cryopump through a pressure relief valve into the atmosphere. So they are removed. But remember, during this process of regeneration, what is required is that a cryopump have a means to isolate it from the vacuum chamber. So there is a valve, so that valve is closed, so your cryo pump, that is isolated from the vacuum chamber, and then the surfaces or the vacuum the cryo pump itself is kept at some elevated temperature, about room temperature or slightly higher than that, so that these solid spaces which are condensed or adsorbed, uh, they will be once again converted into gas spaces, and they are removed through certain exhaust valve in the atmosphere. So that means the surfaces are made empty. Simply you are throwing out these condensed or adsorbed spaces from this particular cryo pump. So your cryo pump will be further, just like a refreshing, you are refreshing the system, so or resetting the system. Everything, the initial parts or garbage, you can say, the captured gas molecules, they are removed out, and now the surfaces are empty totally. So you can further open the wall which is going towards the vacuum chamber, and further process of pumping will start. So this is how the